Hi everyone, my name's VIGOR. So, have you ever wanted to make a build using the Starfist, which are basically the best weapon in Elden Ring, but you can't because you can't get it until Leyndell Royal Capital? And the alternative is the Iron Balls, which requires killing your buddy the Blackguard to get, which sucks. Well, I've got news for you because you can get the Katar and make a pretty strong build that'll break Poise just as easily as the Starfist. This build is actually surprisingly strong, a lot stronger than I expected it to be, and it's super easy to set up. It's going to take a little while, as you can tell by the length of the video, but if you want to skip around, then you can use the timestamps down in the description, and this thing is absolutely worth setting up if you're in the early game and you just want to be a poise-breaking monster that'll shred everything in your path. If you find this video helpful, please leave a like, share the video, and consider subscribing. It really helps me out. Before we begin, I want to make sure we're all on the same page about map fragments. So in this video, we're going to go to a bunch of different places around the map, and if you're not picking up the map fragments and your map is blank like this, then that's going to be a pain in the ass to do. So you saw I marked that brown obelisk marker that's on the map. That's where the map fragments are, and you can see those in all the new regions that you enter. So the first thing you should do whenever you enter a new area is go and grab the map, and that'll make playing the game and following this guide a lot easier. So to start off, from the first step, we're going to head north to the Church of Ella, and inside there we're going to grab Smithing Stone 1. We're going to be coming back here later, so make sure you have this Site of Grace. After that, we're going to head up north, straight up to the Gatefront Ruins, which you can just get to by following the road north. On the west side of the ruins, there's a Site of Grace called Gatefront. Sit down at this grace, and you'll trigger a cutscene where Melina will talk to you, and she'll give you Torrent and the ability to level up. Then we're going to go into the ruins, grab the map fragment that's there, then head over to the carriage on the east side of the ruins, be careful not to get owned by the spear guy, and grab the flail out of the chest in the back of it. And then near the middle of the ruins, you're going to find the cellar, and once you go down into there, there's a chest that contains the whetstone knife. After that, follow the road west from the gate front, and you'll find a golden seed along the way to the Stormveil shack. Grab the Site of Grace here, because we're going to be coming back here later. You can see this is the road that we followed. From the Stormveil shack, there's a few beacons that I'm going to place, and you're going to want to go and grab these in order. So number 1 is at the top of that hill up there, number 2 is by the ruin, number 3 is on top of a smaller hill, and then number 4 is at the intersection there by the War Master's shack. So from the Stormveil shack, we're going to go and hit each of these locations. So at beacon number 1, there's a troll. He's walking around, you can just run past him. And at the top of the hill, there's the Strength Knot Crystal tier. Then we're going to go to number 2, where there's a circle of chairs. And on one of the corpses here, you'll find 3 Smithing Stone 1s. Then waypoint number 3 has a graveyard that has a bunch of golden runes in it. Be careful because there's also these ball clusters that explode when you get close to them. So loot all the golden runes in the graveyard because we're going to be using them to buy a bunch of stuff along the way. And then number 4 is just north of the graveyard, and that's the War Master's shack where we're going to grab the Site of Grace. While we're here, we're going to farm some root resin real quick. So directly east of the Grace, there's some trees that have 3 root resins around them. You can grab the root resin, then sit down at the Grace to make them respawn, and then grab them again. You're going to want to do about 2 or 3 runs of that because we're going to need a little bit of root resin. After that, there's 2 more spots we're going to hit. So number 1 is at an arrow south of the War Master's shack, and number 2 is on top of that plateau up there. So we're going to head over to spot number 1. This is the troll zone. So you'll find this glowing statue here. You want to get a troll's attention and then put the statue in between you and the troll and just let him walk through it. He'll break the statue, and inside of it, there's an item to grab. Make sure you actually grab it when you pass by it. I missed it there. And that item is 5 Smithing Stone 1s and a Smithing Stone 2. Then we're going to head north of the War Master shack and come up to this big plateau where you'll find a knight riding around on his horse. So I'm using my club. Basically any weapon will do this. If you hit him with tap heavy attacks, then it'll keep him stunned like you saw. And once you break his poise or kill the horse, he falls off of it. And when he dies, he drops the Golden Vow, Ash of War. After that, we're going to go back to the War Master shack and follow the road east over to the Saints Bridge. There's an item we're going to grab on the bridge, and then there's a merchant we're going to talk to on the other side of the bridge. On the bridge, grab the Smithing Stone 1s, and then once you go past the bridge on your right side, you'll hear the merchant. Talk to him, and he sells more Smithing Stone 1s. At this point, you should have 11 of them. You can see the number held under the name on top. If you don't have all 11, then you can buy any that you're missing from the merchant here. After that, keep following the road east from the merchant, and you'll come over to Summon Water Village. Right outside of it, there's a Site of Grace, Summon Water Village outskirts, and we're going to stop over by a couple graveyards that are over here too. We're going to go over to the one on the right first, because there's some parkour you have to do to get over to the one on the left, and you can't go left to right, so make sure you go to the right one first. And then after we're done with both of those, we're going to head to the Third Church of America, where you saw I put that third beacon. So just follow the cliff until you get over to the right graveyard. You'll come over here and see there's no enemies in this one, unlike the other one, so you can just grab all the runes in peace. Once you have all those golden runes, head west and you'll see these big tombstones jutting out of the cliff. Be careful, you don't want to fall to your death here. You can use Torrent's double jump to like control where you're landing. You can't use it to survive falls, but you get like more air control by doing the double jump, you feel me? So be careful, take it slow, go across the tombstones, and then that'll bring you over to the second graveyard that we marked, where there's a bunch more golden runes to grab. There's also a crafting recipe here, but that's not relevant for this video, but you know, make sure you grab it. Then after that, head back up towards where the tombstones were, and you'll see some more on the cliff that'll lead you down to this lower level, and then you can just run straight over to the Third Church of America. Inside the church, there's a couple items to grab. Number one is the Flask of Wondrous Physick in the basin there, and then over by the America statue, there is a sacred tear, which you can use to upgrade your flasks. From the Third Church of America, you can just follow the road straight to the south, and that'll take you to the Minor Erd Tree, which is a mile-tall tree that is glowing yellow, so you can't miss it. This is also where we grabbed that map in the intro. So grab the map and then come up to the base of the tree, and you will find a basin that contains the Spiked Crack tier and the Green Spell Crystal tier. We're here for the Spiked tier. So, you know, again, we're at the base of the tree, so you can't miss it. Then you're going to head west across the road to the Mistwood Ruins, which you can like see. There's like squares on your map there. You'll be able to see it. So we're going to go to the Mistwood Ruins, and then from there, we're going to follow the road south to Fort Haight. So over at the Mistwood Ruins, find the tower, which you can hear Blythe howling on top of it. Inside the tower is a chest, and inside the chest is a smithing stone too. There's also a bunch of Trained Lilies here. Grab them. They're not relevant to this guide, but just get them while you're here. Go past the Sleeping Bear and down the cellar. Don't worry, the bear's too big to follow you down. And you can grab the Axe Talisman from the chest in the cellar. So we're going to be using this as an integral part of our Katar build. And then give the bear a minute to lose aggro on you, and then you can just run up the stairs, get on the road, and just book it to the south before the bear murders you. And that'll take you straight over to Fort Haight. Make sure you grab the Grace here that's at the base of the cliff. You can see, you know, big cliff. And then we're going to go up into the fort, so just follow the road up. There's a few items we're going to grab here. So number one is the Blood Rose by the staircase there. Number two is the Golden Seed by the Phantom Tree. I'm just running past all the enemies, but you should probably, you know, take it slow and kill them as you're going along. But anyway, go inside the fort. There's another Blood Rose and a couple more on a corpse that's there. Then you're going to head up the stairs and into this dark room where you're going to find the Nomadic Warrior's Cookbook number 6, which gives us the recipe to craft blood grease. And then you go back outside, head up the stairs, and you're going to run past all the commoners and stuff and go up the tower. They might follow you up, but they're slow. At the top of the tower is the left half of the Dectus Medallion. We're not going to be using it in this guide, but you should grab it while you're here. Once that's done, you can drop back down the tower, and then if you make a left out the door, there you can go onto like the battlement here on this like wooden platform shit. And if you run across this, then you'll see on your left there is another Smithing Stone 1, which brings us up to a total of 12 Smithing Stone 1s. After that, we're heading into Caelid to go get the Katar. So from the Summon Water Village outskirts that we grabbed before, you can just go through the village and follow the road to the east, and that'll take you over here to the Rot View Balcony by the Shack of the Rotting. From the Rot View Balcony, we're going to go straight south, and that'll take us over to Fort Gael. You can see it marked on your map, and you'll also be able to see it because it's a big-ass fort. And along the way, we're going to grab the Fort Gael North Site of Grace, which I'll show you in a minute. So here we are at the Rot View Balcony. Turn and look to your south. You can see the fort over there. So we're going to jump up the rocks here. And before we go to the fort, there's a graveyard where we're going to grab a couple more golden runes. There's only 3 of them here, so just grab them. And then after that, you can just go down the cliff here, or go down the path, and that'll take you straight over to Fort Gael. So here's the Site of Grace next to this root just north of Fort Gael. So make sure you grab that in case you die here. And then we're going to follow the cliff up into the fort. Be careful of the knight that's shooting these range of arrows down. Those will do a lot of damage if they get you, especially while you're on torrent. Also, at the fort, you can't go in through the front gate, so you have to go around the back. So kill this guy here by the ladder. Now once he's dead, you gotta wait a minute because the knight is still going to be firing rains of arrows at you. It'll do a bunch of damage, but you can block it and you'll take a lot less damage. Doesn't matter if you're using a shield or not, just block it with your weapon. Once he stops shooting at you, climb up the ladder and go into the fort. You can see that dark room down there. That's where we're going. So sneak across this beam so this guy doesn't hear you, and you can backstab him and you'll fall down into the pit. He won't die, but he's out of your way so he can't attack you now. Then before you drop down, you want to go up these stairs here and you can jump across to this rampart, and then you're going to head up the rampart this way and you'll find this lever. This lever will open the gate beneath you, which we're going to use in a minute because we're going to have to run for our life after we grab the Katar. So drop down to the room where the Katar is, open up the chest, and grab the Katar. That's what we came here for. Hooray. There's one other item we're going to grab while we're here too. So go outside, and what you're going to do, you can wait for the lion to lose aggro, but I didn't. And you can see that was a mistake. But it doesn't really matter because there's a stake of Marika that you can respawn at, so you'll just respawn right here anyway. There's a rune arc on that corpse there, which you should grab. So we're going to go back around the back of the fort, and this time we're going to go past the ladder, and you'll see these two flame chariots here. And between them, there is an item, and that item is the Flame Grant Me Strength spell, which we're going to be using as a buff later on. So now we've got the Katar, and we're going to go grab the Ash of War, which makes this build great. So from the Fort Gael north side of Grace, if you head east, come over to the road where you see the telescope marked on your map, and you'll find a finger reader crown and a site of grace called the Smoldering Wall. You can see it's here next to the Smoldering Wall. From here, you're just going to follow the road south straight through Caelid until you get to this triangle-shaped intersection where you'll find the map fragment for Caelid. So you'll know it when you see the map on your blank map. So just head over to that shit, grab the map, and then once you have that, just follow the path to the south, and it'll take you over to the Impassable Great Bridge by Redmane Castle. So you can put a beacon there if you want. I put the beacon there just for reference. You'll see that siege tower over there. That's where we're going. Along the way, there's a golden seed to grab, so make sure you grab that. And there's also, next to these broken carriages here, there's a pickup for 6 fan daggers. Make sure you grab these because they're going to be useful later on. Make sure you're careful of all the giant dogs and shit along the way to the Impassable Great Bridge, by the way. Once you get here, grab the Site of Grace, and we're going to head directly to the west of the Grace, over by the cliff. So you can just run around the tower, get on the cliff. You're going to follow the edge of the cliff around because there's this scarab here. If you come straight at it, then it'll run off toward all those giant dogs, and that's a pain in the ass. So you want to come around it so that it runs the other way when it sees you. And when you kill it, it'll drop the Cragblade Ash of Boar. Up next, we're going to go and grab some runes so that we can get a bunch of free levels. So from the Smoldering Wall Site of Grace, follow the road north through the Caelid Ruins, and you'll find the Caelid Ruins Site of Grace. So you can see, just follow the road through the ruins, and it'll take you straight to the Grace. From here, we're going to head to the east towards the Caelid Canyon, and there's a spot where you can jump across toward the north, and that'll take you into the Dragon Barrow. So just, run directly east from the Grace until you get over to the canyon. You see that tree on the other side of it on the left right now? That's the marker, like a landmark, so you can see where you need to go. There's a spot where you can jump across the canyon. Make sure you jump so you don't fall to your death. And that takes you into Greyoll's Dragon Barrow. From here, we're going to head east over to Fort Faroth. So you'll be able to see the map because it's like right next to us, so make sure you grab that. Once you have the map fragment, you can then follow the road along and take this southern path here, and this will take you past a bunch of dragons and shit, but you can just run past them really easily, and it'll take you directly over to Fort Faroth. So here's your map, and like I said, there's a bunch of dragons here, but they're all these juvenile ones, so they can't fly, and they're really slow, so you can really easily just run past them all. You'll also see the giant dragon Greyoll, but she's too big to move, so she just stays there, and you don't have to worry about her. So go over to the fort, and we're going to go inside the fort and grab a couple items in here too. Now, the Dragon Barrow is a really high-level area, so these bats will probably one-shot you, but you can really easily just sprint past them all and get to the ladder. They can't follow you up it. At the top of the ladder, there's a chest with the right half of the Dectus Medallion. Like I said, we're not going to be using it in this video, but you should grab it while we're here. We're going to run across the roof over there to that hole that has a ladder in it, so just drop down onto the roof and then run across. Once you're down here, be careful of the giant rat that's on your left by those barrels. We're going to grab the Golden Rune 12, which is worth 7,500 runes. Then you're going to jump across to the hidden attic. You're going to run past these two giant rats. Be careful of them when you come around the corner. Drop down the hole, and you will grab the Radagon Soreseal Talisman. Now, if you get lucky like me, you can mash the map button, and if they lose aggro on you, then you can fast travel over to the fort set at Grace. If not, then just let them kill you, and you'll respawn at the Grace. So we came here to use the Flail to kill Greyoll, but the Flail requires 18 dex to wield. So if you put on Radagon Soreseal, that gives you an extra 5 to dex, strength, vigor, and endurance, but that's not quite enough because you need 18. So what I'm going to do is use that golden rune 12 that we picked up, and you can sit down at the Grace and level up dex. You need at least 13, but for this build we're going to use 14 dex, so just bring it up to 14 while you're here. Any leftover points you have go into Vigor. I'll talk about that more in a minute when we do more leveling up after we kill Greyoll. And so now, with the 14 dex plus 5 from the Soreseal, we can wield the Flail. We're also going to head back over to the first step in Limgrave real quick, and if you go directly south of it, you see that dot in the ocean, so just run south over to that. If you look down at the base of this cliff, you'll see that there's some spirit springs down there. So they have a pretty wide range, so you can just jump down and you'll land safely because of the spirit spring. And there's a corpse down here that has a gold pickled foulfoot on it, so grab that. Then we're going to head back over to the Church of Ella and talk to Gael. We're going to buy the crafting kit from him for 300 runes. So if you don't have the runes for it on hand, then you can just go to sell and sell him one of the golden runes that we picked up, and that'll give you plenty to buy the crafting kit. So buy that. Any leftover runes you have, you should use to buy throwing daggers. Like the fan daggers, they're going to come in handy later, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But you're going to want at least a couple of them. So then we're going to go back to Fort Faroth. We can now use the crafting kit to craft some blood grease using the root resin and the Bloodroses we picked up at Fort Haight. Then we're going to go to our equipment screen. You're going to put the blood grease on one of your quick item slots, and then in the other one, you're going to put the gold pickled foulfoot. Make sure you do not use the gold pickled foulfoot yet because it only lasts for 3 minutes and you don't want to waste it. So now that we've got the flail, the blood grease, and the gold pickled foulfoot, you're going to head over to Greyoll, go around her tail, and you'll find this convenient mushroom platform you can stand on. Take your flail and put blood grease on it, then get as close to her as you can and face toward her, and hold down L2 to use the spinning chain Ash of War. It hits her a bunch of times in a row, and because the flail has built-in bleed, plus we put blood grease on it, we're going to be doing, I think, like 85 bleed buildup per hit, and so it just does a bunch of bleed buildup, and even though she has like 60,000 health, each bleed proc takes off a big chunk of her health. And you can see that you don't need to drink your blue flasks because that bleed buildup still works even if you don't have FP, so just keep holding down L2 and killing her. After a minute, the blood grease will run out, so reapply it to the flail, and it's also at this point where you can use the gold pickled foulfoot because she's pretty close to death, and so we don't have to worry about it running out before we kill her. So just keep whacking away at her, and eventually she will die. And if you have taken the gold pickled foulfoot, then when she dies, she will drop about 96,000 runes, which we can use to level up a whole bunch. So go level up, and we're going to get the stats that we need for this build, which you can see on the right corner there. So we need 14 dexterity, which we already have. We need 20 strength, because we're going to be using another weapon that requires 20 strength to wield. We need 10 faith. We're going to use that to cast Flame Grant Me Strength. It actually requires 15 faith, but we're going to get a talisman that brings it up by 5. We're also going to need 16 endurance so that we can equip all the stuff that we're going to be using all at once and still medium roll. And then any leftover runes you have should go into vigor. Get it as high as possible. You want to get it to 40 before you level up anything else after this. Okay? Get 40 vigor as soon as possible. Seriously, vigor is by far the most important stat. Now, if you haven't done so already, you can talk to Melina, and she will take you to the Round Table Hold. On your left, you go through the hallway here, and you'll find the Twin Maiden Husks. Talk to them, and you can buy some stuff from them. So we need the Finger Seal, which costs 800 runes, and we're going to use that to cast Flame Grant Me Strength later. So grab that. And we also need this dagger for 400 runes. We're going to put Golden Vow on this so that we have a lightweight weapon that can use Golden Vow. And then we're also going to buy the Knight set here for 13,500 runes. So this is the main reason why we went and we grabbed all those golden runes. You can go into your inventory and just use them. You could also go around the corner to Hugh and sell them to him, and that might be faster. But yeah, so for the Knight set, you need 13,500 runes, so use enough golden runes to get that, and then you can buy the armor set. This set is nice because it gives you 51 poise, so you can tank some hits without getting stunned, and it gives good protection, it looks cool as shit, and it's relatively lightweight for how much protection it gives you. After that, go around to the other side of the Round Table Hold, talk to Hugh the blacksmith, and we're going to use those smithing stones we picked up in order to upgrade the Katar. so you can sell him some more runes if you need to. I think you need about 1600 runes for this. I don't know the exact number, but to bring the Katar up to +4, which we can do because of those 2 smithing stone tubes that we picked up, you need around 1600 runes. Now we're going to set up our loadout. So our main weapon is of course going to be the Katar. We're also going to equip the dagger in our second right hand slot, and in our left hand we're going to equip the finger seal. We've also got the knight set equipped, and for our talisman we're going to switch off of Radagon Soreseal and use the axe talisman instead, because we're going to be relying on those charge heavy attacks that the Katar does, which I'll talk about in a bit. You can also go to a Site of Grace. Make sure you use any golden seeds in sacred tears that you picked up along the way. You can then go to Memorize Spell, and you're going to equip Flame Grant Me Strength. It requires 15 faith to cast, so we can't use it yet, but we're going to just equip it just to have it equipped when we're ready to use it. Then we're going to go Mixed Wondrous Physick. You're going to equip the Strength Knot Crystal tier and the Spiked Crack tier. So the Strength tier boosts your Strength by 10 for 3 minutes, and the Spike tier boosts your charge attack damage for 3 minutes. And then finally, go to Ashes of War. We're going to put Golden Vow on the dagger. Doesn't matter what affinity you give it, so I just gave it Sacred. And on the Katar, we're going to give it Cragblade with the heavy affinity, so that it scales better with strength. We've got the basics of the build set up, but there's still more that we can do to make it even stronger. So we're going to head back over to the Stormhill Shack, and we're going to follow the road north to the Broken Bridge, and then we're going to drop down onto the cliff and follow the hidden cliffside path around Stormveil Castle into Liurnia of the Lakes. So here we are at the end of the Broken Bridge. You can very easily just jump down onto this cliff here, and then if you follow this, it's a hidden path that takes you around Stormveil, so you don't have to kill the bosses to get to Liurnia. Once you're in Liurnia, you'll find the lake-facing cliff Site of Grace, so make sure you grab that. Look at the pretty view. Oh my god, it's too foggy. It's usually not this foggy. So while we're here, we're first going to stop over at the Church of Erith that's right here, and we're going to grab a Sacred Tear to upgrade our flasks some more. Sacred Tears and Golden Seeds are really important, and I'm going to put a link to one of my videos down in the description to show you how you can upgrade them to nearly max level from basically the very start of the game, because that helps a lot to do. So anyway, from the Church of Erith, we're going to follow the road west down into the lake level. You'll be able to see the map fragment on your blank map, so put a beacon there and head over to it. So once you get down to lake level, you'll see there's a merchant there on your left with a Site of Grace that you can talk to if you want. So grab the map, and then you're going to keep heading northwest from the map fragment, and this will take you up to the Laskar Ruins where there's a Site of Grace. And so you can see, here's where it is on your map, once you have it. From the Laskar Ruins, we're going to head directly to the east over to the Purified Ruins, which you can see here marked on your map. So we're going to go to that big building that's there. So just head directly east from the Site of Grace, and you'll see the Purified Ruins on the shore. Go up to it, to the big building that has all the banners and stuff. You'll find a cellar covered in wood, so you can crouch down and do a light attack, and that'll break the wood, and then you can go down into the cellar, and in the chest you'll find the 2 Fingers Heirloom, which is going to be useful later on when we have a second talisman slot. After that, head back to the Laskar Ruins, and we're going to go straight to the north up to the Academy Gate Town. You'll be able to see this on your map because there's going to be a map fragment next to the Grace, and also you can use this bridge here as a reference. You'll be able to see this with the map we just grabbed. So from like the end of the bridge, just go a little bit to the west, and that's at the Academy Gate Town. So we're going to head up there. When you're at the Gate Town, make sure you grab the map and the Site of Grace, of course, and then from here, there's a bunch more beacons that we're going to put because we're going to go and grab a bunch of things that are around the area here. So number 1, we're going to head west from the Gate Town. You'll see this Finger Reader Crone. Right next to her, there's like this L-shaped building, and if you put a beacon in the corner of the L, you feel me, there's a golden seed there, and also to the west of that, there's a little courtyard thing that has some smithing stones we're going to grab. So I'm not going to mark that because it's right there. After that, we're going to come back over here, and we're going to stop by this gazebo to the southeast of the Grace. Then we're going north of that. You'll see this swamp here that has these rocks sticking out of the cliff. If you go to the tip of one of the rocks and go halfway down in between the 2 tips of the rocks, you can put a beacon there, and there's some more smithing stones. And then northwest of that, there's a gazebo that has even more smithing stones. And then we're going to follow the cliff all the way up around to the north over here to this orange circle that's marked on the map, and that is called Raya Lucaria Crystal Tunnel, where we're going to get a bunch more smithing stones, plus a way to buy infinite smithing stones 1 and 2. So first we go over inside the gate town and grab the golden seed by the crone, and then you can head through this alleyway here to the west and like go by the big bridge that you can't miss, and you'll see this courtyard that has a giant crab in it. On the north end of it, there's a corpse here that has 3 smithing stone 2s, so make sure you grab that. We're going to need a total of 10 smithing stone 2s by the end of this. Then head back over to the Academy Gate Town site of Grace and head to this gazebo to the southeast of it. You want to approach the gazebo from the north because there are lobsters around it that'll pop out and attack you if you come at it from the other sides. So you want to come at it from the north by that piece of broken bridge there. Grab the smithing stone 3s that are here, and then we're going to go directly east of the gazebo, and you see this balloon that's over here? This is why we grabbed those fan daggers and the throwing daggers earlier, because if you lock onto the balloon, you can throw a fan dagger at them. It only takes 1, and when it pops, you get a golden rune 6, which is worth 2,000 runes. So whenever you see balloons, make sure you pop them for free runes, basically. After that, head up to the beacon in the swamp, and right next to the Miranda flower that's there, underneath it, there is a corpse that has more smithing stones, and then there's the gazebo in the swamp, which has even more smithing stones. And after you've grabbed all those, head north around the cliff, and when you see the walking mausoleum, directly to the east of it, you'll find the entrance to Raya Lucaria Crystal Tunnel. So at this point, you should have at least 3 smithing stone 2s and 9 smithing stone 3s. We're going to need a total of 10 smithing stone 2s and 12 smithing stone 3s by the end of this. So make sure you've got your loadout set up because there's a bunch of enemies in here and you're going to be able to fight them. So we've got our Katar with Cragblade, we've got our dagger with Golden Vow, we've got our knight's armor on, and we've got the axe talisman equipped. And then in the Wondrous Physick, we've got the strength knot crystal tier and the spike crack tier. And so what you're going to do is you're going to hit any enemy that you fight, you're going to hit them with the charged heavy attacks. So buff the Katar using Cragblade. It lasts for 60 seconds, so you have to reapply it every now and again. But buff it with Cragblade, and then you can hit these fuckers with the charged heavy attacks, and it'll stance break them in 2 hits, and then you can get the riposte to easily kill them. And so that heavy attack is the same one-handed heavy attack that the Star Fist gets. And so it's really fast, it does a bunch of damage, and it does a bunch of poise damage. Also, in this first room, there's a chest that has a Somber Stone 2, and behind that there's a statue that has a Somber Stone 3, so make sure you grab those. So I'm not going to show this whole dungeon because this video is already long enough as it is, but basically we're heading to the bottom of the dungeon. Oh, and here's another tip. Your backstabs should instantly kill these guys, by the way. But yeah, so you're going to want to explore this dungeon, kill the miners because they have a chance of dropping smithing stones, and you'll see these glowing yellow smithing stones on the walls and the floor as you go through the dungeon. Those are smithing stones, so make sure you pick them up. You want to have as many smithing stone 2s as possible by the end of this, and there are also smithing stone 3s to find. You want to have at least 12 smithing stone 3s by the end of this dungeon. So here's the very last room before the boss. There are 3 convenient smithing stone 3s on the floor there, so I grabbed them all. So I didn't really explore much of the dungeon, I just ran through it, but I ended up with 14 smithing stone 3s and 5 smithing stone 2s, which is fine. So here at the boss room, there's also a Somber Stone 1 on the ground that you want to grab, because there's another weapon we're going to upgrade that uses Somber Stones. So before the boss, you're going to want to drink your Wondrous Physick, then you use the dagger to cast Golden Vow, then switch over to the Katar and cast Cragblade, and then we're going to go into the boss fight and kick some ass. So the boss of this dungeon is a single Crystallian. It seems like it might be really tough at first because it takes like no damage from your hits, but what you're going to do is hit it with the one-handed charged heavy attacks of the Katar, because those do a fuckload of poise damage, like the Star Fist does, and then after 3 charged heavy attacks, it'll get stance broken, and once it gets stance broken, it becomes super weak. You can see it gets stunned by every hit that I do. Even if I hit it with something like a throwing dagger, it'll get stunned by that. And so after you get that first stance break, it becomes laughably easy, and you can kill it really fast. And so once the Crystallian dies, it will drop the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing number 1. We're going to use all those smithing stones to upgrade the Katar in a minute, but we've got 2 more stops to make real quick. So from the Academy Gate Town, we're going to head west to the west shore of Liurnia, and if you follow it to the north, there's like a road you can follow. You'll come up to this site of grace, the foot of the 4 belfries. Follow the road north from there, and you'll see this group of red jellyfish that are here. Be careful, because they attack you on sight. They're around a couple items, so 1 is some blood grease, and 2 is the jellyfish shield, which is the final really important item of this build. And then once you have the Jellyfish shield, keep following the road north. You'll go through a camp and you'll pass by a convoy. You can explore these on your own time. I'm just running past them right now. Run past them, and when you come back to the lake, to the east over here, you'll see there's a bunch more of those balloons we can pop. So here's where we're at on the map. You can see that we are pretty much directly north of the Lucaria Academy, so this should not be a hard area to find at all. And specifically, I'm going to point out that on that corner there, there's also a graveyard that's unmarked on the map. So we're going to pop the balloons, and then we're going to go grab the golden runes from that graveyard. So like I said before, you can just use fan daggers or throwing daggers, and you can just lock onto the balloons, hit them with a single dagger, and it will pop, and you will get a golden rune 6. So these balloons don't respawn, unfortunately, but this is like a free 10,000 runes right here. So, you know, you should go grab them. And then just south of that, there's this graveyard. This graveyard is filled with all these wraith collars that'll come out of the ground, so I actually recommend you get off the horse while you're grabbing all these runes, because if they melee you, they can like stun lock you and knock you off the horse. So I find it easier to do this on foot, and then grab all the golden runes and then run away. We're going to go back to the Round Table Hold, go to the Twin Maiden Husks, hit Offer a Bell Bearing, and give them the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing number 1. And then when you go back to the purchase menu, you will see that they now sell infinite Smithing Stones 1 and 2. So we have the Katar at +4 right now, which means that we need 10 Smithing Stone 2s to get it up to +6, and then we need 12 Smithing Stone 3s to get it up to +9. So I had 5 Smithing Stone 2s. You can see number held. That's how many you have. I have 5 of them, so I only need to buy 5 more, and that brings me up to a total of 10 Smithing Stone 2s. And then I also had the 14 Smithing Stone 3s that I picked up in the tunnels and around Liurnia. So we're going to bring those over to Hugh, and we're going to upgrade the Katar to +9, and it now does quite a bit of damage. And we're also going to use those somber Smithing Stones 1, 2, and 3 that we picked up to upgrade the Jellyfish shield to +3. This is actually optional. You don't really need to upgrade the shield if you don't want to, but you know, it's a little bit of extra guard boost for this item that we're going to be using. It will cost like 4,000 runes though, so it's kind of expensive because the shield is kind of heavy. And so you should now have the Katar at +9 and the shield at +3, and because we have 16 endurance, we can wear this full loadout. I wouldn't recommend going past 20 endurance on this build, but before you do that, you want to get 40 vigor, just while I'm talking about stats here. So now we're going to start killing shit, and I want to talk about the nuances of the Katar real quick. So the Katar, like most fist weapons, is a paired weapon, which means that if you two-hand it by holding your interact button and pressing the light attack button, you'll get 2 of them, 1 in each hand, and you get that dual wield moveset. That moveset is cool, but it's not great for our purposes because we want to focus on getting poise breaks. So if you one-hand it, then it gets the same one-handed heavy attacks that the Star Fist gets. And so that's great because it gets a really high poise damage motion value. So you see the Katar has 5 base poise damage, and its charged R2s have a 600 motion value, so that means you're multiplying it by 6, so 5 times 6 equals 30, so each of your charged R2s is doing 30 poise damage, and they come out fast as fuck. But on top of that, we've also got Cragblade, which increases the poise damage by another 10%. So you're doing 33 poise damage per charge R2 with the Katar, and they come out super fast. I think it's like a 24 frame attack. It's really fast. And so another thing is that we're using all those buffs for damage. There's the Jellyfish shield, which you grab because of its Ash of War, Contagious Fury. That buff is only active if the shield is red. So if you switch off of the shield, or if you put it on your back, then that makes it turn blue again, which means that you lost the buff. So you have to keep the shield in your left hand while you use the Katar in your right hand. And so, you know, since we're using the Katar one-handed, you get the opportunity to block with the shield, which is why I decided to upgrade the shield. But the main thing we're using it for is the Ash of War to increase our damage that we're doing. I also strongly recommend you go back to Gael and you sell him some of the golden runes that we picked up, and you stock up on throwing daggers, and those are really good for helping to maintain the poise damage, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So now, for the final thing that we need for this build, we need to go kill Margit and get the Talisman patch that he drops. So head over to the Castleward Tunnel, use any golden seeds and sacred tears that you've got. We're going to go to Memorize Spell and equip Flame Grammy Strength, even though we're not using it right now. In your Wondrous Physick, you've got the Strength tier and the Spiked Crack tier. And then as for our Ashes of War, we've got the Dagger with Golden Vow on it, and we've got the Katar at +9 with Cragblade and the Heavy Affinity. And then so here's our loadout. We got the Katar, we got the dagger, we got the finger seal, which we're not using right now. You got the jellyfish shield in our left hand. We've got the knight armor set on for the damage protection and poise that it provides. And we've got the axe talisman to increase the damage of our charge heavy attacks. And so basically you want to exclusively attack with the charge heavy attacks of the Katar. So our buffing order is going to be that you drink the Wondrous Physick, switch to the dagger and cast Golden Vow, switch to the Katar and cast Cragblade, and then switch your left hand to the Jellyfish shield and cast Contagious Fury, and then you go into the boss fight. And so you're going to see when Margit spawns in, you just run up to him, and you hold down R2, and you punch him really hard. It only takes 3 hits to Poise Break him, and since we do so much Poise DPS, we Poise Break him super fast. You can get the riposte, and he's already more than halfway dead. When he wakes up, hit him with another charge heavy attack. So you see he jumps away, and I hit him with the throwing daggers, because hitting him with the throwing daggers will prevent his poise from regenerating, and that makes it easier to consistently get stance breaks. Because if you go a few seconds without hitting the enemy, then their poise will regenerate, and you have to start over from the first hit. And so here, you see the loadout that I killed him with. On death, Margit will be nice enough to drop a talisman pouch for us, and this gives us a new talisman slot to work with. And so we now complete our build by equipping the 2 fingers heirloom in that talisman slot for the +5 faith it gives us, which now allows us to cast the spell Flame Grant Me Strength. You can look at the calculations on the screen and see how much damage you're doing from the buffs. It's a lot. So at this point, in terms of gear, the build is pretty much done, and really the main thing you got to do is just get the Vigor up to 40. Once you get to Leyndell, you can upgrade from the Katar to the Starfist if you want, but I'm not going to be talking about that because this video is already 40 minutes long. And so in terms of getting runes, the best thing you can do is kill bosses. So for example, I'm coming here to Godrick and Stormveil Castle because we just killed Margit, so why not? One thing I want to point out real quick is you see these beacons that I'm placing. So that first one is where you can find a golden seed. It's just down the alley from Godrick's boss room, so make sure you grab that. And the second one is a room here where there's an NPC named Nefeli Lu. If you talk to her, then her summon sign will appear over here by Godrick's boss room. And so I also just want to talk about the gameplay of using this buff for a little bit. So our buffing order is you drink your Wondrous Physick, cast Golden Vow, switch to the Katar and cast Cragblade, then use the finger seal in your left hand to cast Flame Grant Me Strength, and then switch your left hand to the Jellyfish shield and cast Contagious Fury. And so you have to do Contagious Fury last, because if you switch off of the shield, then you lose the buff from the shield and you have to use it again. So that's always going to be the last one you use. It's also the shortest buff, so you want to cast them in order from longest to shortest if possible. And so when you attack bosses, what you're going to do, or any enemy really, is you're going to focus on using your charge heavy attacks because they do a fuckload of poise damage. In this case, Godrick has 105 poise, so it takes 4 charge heavy attacks to break his poise, because the first 3 will do, 33 each for a total of 99, and then you have to hit him with the 4th one, or even like a light attack or something, to get the poise break, because he has 105 poise. And so you see, you're just going for those charge heavy attacks. You get stance breaks super quickly and super easily. And because the Katar has a 110 crit number, that means you also get a bunch of damage when you do your riposts. As you can see, the critical is 110, so it does pretty good riposte damage too. And so once you get the stance break, you get the riposte, and the enemy takes a whole bunch of damage and dies. And so in the case of Godrick specifically, he drops 20,000 runes, and he also drops the Remembrance of the Grafted. You could turn this in at Enya in the Round Table Hold in order to get one of his weapons, either his axe or the Grafted Dragon, but they're both kind of bad, so I like to use the Remembrance for runes, and then you can put those points into Vigor, get 40 Vigor as soon as possible. Normally I would advise against using Remembrances for runes, but Godrick's kind of sucks, so that's one that I'm always fine with using for runes. Now, there's also the other thing you can do to keep making this build better and better, and that's to go get more smithing stones to upgrade the Katar further. So you see here, I went to Gael Tunnel, which you can find directly north of Fort Gael. It's an orange circle marked on your map, and in Gael Tunnel you'll find smithing stone 4s. I think there's like 7 in Gael Tunnel, so explore that and grab all 7 off the walls and the floors. And then if you come over here to Caelid, just to the northeast of where we found the map fragment, so if you can't find the Site of Grace, here's a little landmark. You'll see a route that goes over the road in like an archway. If you head directly to the right from that, you'll find the Site of Grace. then head north towards the swamp from the Grace, and you'll find all these corpses over here, and one of them has 3 smithing stone 4s. So between Gael Tunnel and that makes 11 actually, so Gael Tunnel has 8 of them. And then the final one you can get over at the Artist Shack in Liurnia. So if you come over to like the Purified Ruins, so you know, go to Laskia Ruins, head east to the Purified Ruins, you can then follow the highway up to the north, and that'll take you up over here to the Artist Shack, and directly to the northeast of the Site of Grace, there is a corpse that has another Smithing Stone 4. So that's 12 easy Smithing Stone 4s you can grab, and that'll let you bring the Katar up to plus 12, because we already have it at plus 9. So this lets you bring it up to plus 12, and so now it does even more damage. There's also a Sombra Stone 4 you can grab in Gael Tunnel, so that let me bring up the Jellyfish Shield to plus 4, because fuck it, why not? And then if you want to go even further while staying in the early game, without going up to like Altis and stuff like that, which by the way, I'm going to write more in the description. But if you keep following the road through Caelid and you go up to Celia, to the northwest of that, there's a cave up there that's marked on your map, and so that is Celia Crystal Tunnel, which you might recognize if you got teleported here by the trap chest in the Dragon Burnt Ruins over at Limgrave. And this tunnel has Smithing Stone 5s. I believe there are like 8 of them here or something like that. So you should be able to get the Katar up to at least plus 14. Oh, and here's another tip. These fucking pests, they're annoying as shit, but if you block one of their attacks, they usually bounce off of the Jellyfish Shield, and then you can hit them with the guard counter, and that'll instantly stance break them. Yeah, so I found 7 here. So that's enough to get the thing up to plus 14, which will make it do even more damage. So like I said just a second ago, in the description, I'm going to write more stuff about, further things you can do to make yourself stronger. You can go up to the Altis Plateau using the 2 halves of the Dectus Medallion we got, and you can go to the tunnels there, like Altis Tunnel, Old Altis Tunnel, and Sealed Tunnel, and you can go to get more Smithing Stone 5s and even some Smithing Stone 6s up there. You can get more Talisman pouches, and I'll write about some talismans that you can get. And, there's also like golden seeds and sacred tears, so I'll write all that down in the description. But the point is that I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like, share the video, and consider subscribing if I helped you out, because it really helps me out. My name is VIGOR, and I will catch you later.